All right, folks, thank you all for joining us. Let's get started with today's webinar. First off, early season's greetings to all of you in advance of Christmas and also of New Year's. Hope all of you have a great holiday and a great New Year celebration, and hope all of you are staying safe. So today we have David Burns, who heads our open source team, talking about Nightwatch 2.0 in action. Really happy to have him sort of walk you through some of the latest and greatest with Nightwatch 2.0. Sorry, before we get started, just a few housekeeping items. Our webinar will run for 60 minutes today. It is being recorded, and the recording will be made available to all of you over email, and we will also be uploading it on our YouTube channel. We will be using a new way to submit questions today through slido.com. I'll sort of walk through instructions there a little later on. Before we do that, let me just tell you a little bit about Browserstack. So we have been, we were founded about 10 years ago. Ritesh and Nakul, our co-founders, started Browserstack to solve a problem they were facing as developers, which was, how do I test my website on Internet Explorer? They were both using Macs at the time, and they had built a website for their business, and it took them longer to figure out a way to test their website on IE than it did to actually build their website. And they realized that developers around the world face the same problem, and that led to the start of Browserstack. That was the first problem that they tried to solve, which is helping developers around the world test their websites on Internet Explorer. And haven't looked back since. We reached 1,000 customers in 6 months. We've launched real iOS and real Android devices. We've also launched app testing, both manual and automated app testing. We raised our first round of funding in 2018, $50 million in Series A. And then we completed acquisition of Percy, which is our visual testing and review tool. And recently, we concluded Series B funding of $200 million at a $4 billion valuation. And we've over the last 10 years, we've moved to we've grown to 4 offices and 800 plus employees all around the world. We have customers, over 50,000 customers from all the verticals. Some of the biggest brands, the best brands in these verticals are our customers today. We also sponsor thousands of open source projects. We help them test their software on Browserstack for free. We have a huge amount of scale built on our platform. We've got over 72 billion Selenium commands that run on our platform every year. Customers from over 135 countries, and we have 15 globally distributed data centers. Some of the world's largest cloud providers rely on Browserstack to test their websites and mobile apps. Let me just spend a minute talking about our products. So we have 3 products that allow you to test your websites and web apps, starting with Live, which allows you to do interactive or manual cross-browser testing, again, on real browsers and real mobile devices. We have over 3,000 sort of browsers and mobile devices that we support on our platform. Automate allows you to run your automated Selenium tests on our browsers and mobile devices. And our latest addition has been Percy, which allows you to do visual testing and review. So not just how your website functions, but Percy allows you to understand and test whether your website looks the way it's supposed to on different browsers. On the mobile app testing side, we support both native and hybrid mobile apps. We have App Live, which allows you to interactively test your mobile apps, both iOS and Android, again, on real mobile devices. And we have App Automate, which allows you to run your automated app testing scripts, whether they're written in using Appium or Espresso or XUI. You can use App Automate to test your mobile apps. And we have a bunch of free products, Screenshots, Responsive. And our latest addition has been Speed Lab, which allows you to understand how your website is performing on different browsers and devices. Just a quick instruction here on how to use Slido. So we're using this application called Slido to submit your questions. All you need to do is go to slido.com. You will see a big toolbar there. You just need to enter in this event code number. and then you can start typing in your questions and participate in the Q&A. So I'll just give all of you a moment to do that. Just go to slido.com, enter the code number that you see here, which is 007467. And as we proceed to the presentation, as David walks through Nightwatch, you can submit your questions, and we will save 15 minutes in the end to address all your questions. Just a few more instructions. If your question is not visible on the slide, don't repost. We have all the questions, and we basically will. If you see a question already posted that you wanted to ask, you can just upvote the questions. So then, the most popular questions will basically automatically get trickled up, and we'll try to address those. Awesome. All right, let's hand it over to David. I think David needs no introduction. He's the core contributor for Selenium, the chairperson for the W3C browser testing and tools working group, and also the editor of the W3C web driver specification. He also leads the open source engineering team at Browserstack. And he's also authored multiple books, including Selenium 1.0 testing tools and Selenium 2 testing tools, a beginner's guide. So over to you, David. Again, folks, I think a bunch of you are asking about the code. It's 007467. Awesome. Over to you, David.
Thank you for that, Praveen. So 1 second while I share my screen. Just going to share my desktop, and we'll start with here. Hopefully everyone can see that, everyone can hear me. I'm sure Praveen will jump in very soon if you can't. So, and we'll get started. Hi everyone. So today I'm very excited to be talking about Nightwatch. I'm going to talk about Nightwatch version 2 that's coming up for release, and all the kind of the cool features that have been built into it. We'll go through that, and there'll be some demos along the way, and we'll just see how it goes. Please, if you have any questions, put the questions in Slido. I've seen the code being added to the chat, so if you've missed it before, just kind of scroll back up in the chat and you'll be able to find one of the previous codes. And with that, we'll get started. So this is me. I head up the open source work here at Browserstack, and I do a lot of work in the browser testing and tools space. And the main thing that I aim for is trying to improve the general space as a whole, not just kind of doing my little bit. So where we can standardize things, get it into browsers, I want to try make that better, because my main philosophy is a rising tide lifts all ships. And it makes the web and mobile space so much better if we have high quality products, and it's easy to test. So this is the general agenda for today. I've got a few demos in there. I'll talk about, I'll explain what Nightwatch is, and then I'll dive into some of the features, and then we'll go through these puts, and then I will do Q&A at the end with Praveen. So to start, Nightwatch is a new tool, or not a new tool. Nightwatch is a JavaScript end-to-end testing tool that allows you to kind of build out all your tests in a manner that kind of makes it easy to read and test, and is built on top of Selenium. It was created by Russo. Sorry, let me enunciate that because I kind of talked through that quickly. Andre Russo, who created Nightwatch when he was part of Pineview, his consultancy, to kind of improve the way testing was being done in the JavaScript space. He wanted good tooling, good reporting, things like that. And he created it and open sourced it. Nightwatch has been around for many years now, is kind of a competing tool to things like WebDriver IO, Cypress, and all of that, because it builds on top of Node.js. and so you just create, like, historically Selenium has always been known as the browser automation tools, not necessarily been known as a testing tool. And so what Nightwatch does is kind of try to turn Selenium into a pure testing tool. And so some things have changed along the way, and so that's what I'm going to be focusing on over the next little while. Right. So one of the first major features that's kind of come into Selenium 2, Nightwatch 2, is that it has swapped out how it does browser automation. In the past, Andre and kind of the other contributors to the project created their own way of speaking to things like Gecko driver and Chrome driver, which meant they were always on the hook for making sure that updates to like the Selenium or the WebDriver specification that I co-edit with Simon Stewart, and any new features that we build in over the next while, they would have to always be keeping up with, or if there were any changes to it. And over the time of the WebDriver specification, there have been some numerous changes that a lot of them are not necessarily user facing, but improve the way that you can do things in the browser. And so the way you communicate with the browser got improved and is faster, and smaller data sets were being sent backwards and forwards. Nightwatch 2 has kind of removed their bespoke transport layer to the browser and brought in Selenium, and it will be using the Selenium WebDriver npm package under the hood. So now it can do anything that is available within Selenium, which is really cool. There are improved in Actions API. So if you've used Nightwatch in the past, you might have noticed that the actions were not kind of the same as what Selenium claimed it could do. So one of the things that the Nightwatch group now has done has built out the actions. And so if you've never used actions in Selenium, it's a set of APIs that allow you to do complex user interactions with the page. So if you wanted to, I don't know, press the shift button while dragging your mouse and drawing around things, you should be able to do that. And so the actions now have kind of a small subset of APIs that you can do, but then you can also build out large, expansive things. And so like one could, if they really wanted to, create a set of actions to kind of drive augmented reality or virtual reality, because kind of the way it's designed is that you just create inputs and those inputs can do stuff. And so here we have a keyboard action and we're just pressing down, pressing up. It can become a bit unwieldy when you're trying to do a lot of things, but it allows you, like with the APIs, to automate something like a Microsoft desk. If you've seen one of those in the past, you should be able to do it because you just create new inputs for every type of thing that you want to do. So this is an example of the API. You can create it, and then whatever the result, you can kind of check and move onwards. So it's a fairly simple API, but really, really powerful. The next set of like things that have come from the Selenium project is the ability to create or to find elements on a page using relative locators. Sorry. So in this case here, we've got an example of that. We're going to try find which is line number 4, the email locator, is that we're going to locate an element by its tag name like we know it's going to be an input, and we know that it lives somewhere above the password. So this is like if you wanted to find your username for, thing, you could just find it. And it doesn't necessarily need to be this. So like if you think of a checkerboard, and you wanted to find something, you should be able to say, please find something to the top, like above and to the left, or to the right, above and to the left, or below, to the left, or to the right. You can also create really nice locators that you can say, oh, well, this should always be within so many pixels from where I am, and then you can do it. Nightwatch has a really nice global function called element, and so whenever you create something, you just say, give me, this is my element. And unlike using raw Selenium, there are a few kind of built-in extra weights to find stuff. So it'll like wait for an element to be visible, wait for it to be interactable, and then kind of try use it. And then if something goes wrong, it'll return and say, well, I couldn't actually find that element, or the element was a bit stale, so something has changed. But you should be able to kind of just pass in what you need to, and then move from there. So at the bottom, we've got kind of two ways, like the two examples of how you could find it. So like you could pass in the element that you've created, that got created when you found it, or you could just pass in how to locate it. And then Nightwatch, because of the way it's structured and tries to build on top of Selenium, it doesn't necessarily need you to go find all the elements. It will find it, make sure it's in the right state, and then click on it. We see this with a number of different tools out there. So like Cypress, WebDriver IO, Playwright, and so it can do all the things that all the other tools can do, and do it really, really well. And because it's got some of the niceties of Selenium built directly into it, we can also use some of the new APIs that Selenium has around what we call the BiDi APIs in the Selenium world. And these are APIs that have two-way communication with the browser. Historically, Selenium would just send a message and then wait for a response. But now we can create new functions that allow you to wait for something to be emitted from the browser. So if you wanted to find JavaScript errors that are happening on the page, you can create a listener and just say, let me know when there's an error. Or in the example that I have on the screen here, if you wanted to do basic authentication, you have your website, but you've put basic authentication in front of it because you don't want people to come across your like super secret website by accident. But it does increase the amount of complexity on how to test it, because browsers generally don't know how to get around it without some human interaction. That's not very good for automation. However, Selenium has built in the new basic auth APIs, which allows you to register a username and password. So in this case, the on line 4, we've got driver.register. It takes a username, which is the first argument. It takes a password, which is the second argument. And then the page CDP connection is just how we speak, like the transport layer that we speak to the browser. So that'll be a WebSocket, and allows us to kind of move things. So in this case, we, the next line, we would just try and navigate to where we want. So that's the browser.url. I've put just a basic string in there, but that could just be your normal HTTPS, URL, that's got your basic auth. And Nightwatch through Selenium will be able to handle that situation a lot better for you and be able to drive it forward. Other APIs that have kind of made their way into the BiDi section of the Selenium project are, if you wanted to get console messages, you'll be able to collect those. If you wanted JavaScript errors, and this is quite useful if you want to know that something has happened badly on a page. So if if there's a JavaScript syntax error that's kind of prevented a page from fully loading, but it's not impacted a test, those are still important to catch and find out. And so you'll be able to collect that, and if there's an error, you can automatically fail your test. So that's really, really, really cool. We have network interception, which is kind of important nowadays, because like there are times where you don't need a full backend and you just want to intercept certain calls. And so this allows you to build faster tests and be able to kind of navigate around it. And you'd be able to like turn off your analytics, for example, or your like analytics for like Google Analytics. Analytics, like if you've got RUM set up so that you don't want to be able to capture those while you're running your tests. You want to be able to collect everything else. Or if you just wanted to inject some of those really negative type of responses. So it's asking for a certain shape of JavaScript, which is a bit hard to test with your Selenium tests. You'd be able to push that, like that kind of wrong shape of data or incomplete data or malformed data to the end user, or to the browser, I should say, not to the end user, and then see how your front end reacts and be able to create tests to make sure that like things still render, things still kind of give a meaningful response to the end user. So I'm really excited by kind of some of these APIs, and it's simple to access because the way Nightwatch handles Selenium is that it creates a driver object. So Nightwatch historically would just have a browser object, and so you would do browser.url to navigate, browser.click, browser.setValue to type. But now you have another one with browser.driver, and that gives you full access to the whole Selenium set of APIs. So you don't need to necessarily follow the Nightwatch opinionated APIs if you wanted to get something else, or if you just wanted to like kind of do a bit more tweaking at a lower level, you can kind of do that with Selenium. And there'll be some really cool features coming out of this over the next while. I'm pretty convinced of that. Cool. So that's the first set of features. The next set of features, and this feature is using cucumber.js. Nightwatch, not that long ago, did its first ever survey of end users and was able to collect a lot of data by asking questions like, what would you like? Internally at Browserstack, we use Nightwatch as well because we see value in it. And our QA teams love using Cucumber because they can interact well with their product managers and kind of everyone else that they might need to make sure that things are written up properly and they can design their tests accordingly. So Cucumber.js is now kind of standard as a dependency so that you can use it. But if you don't want to use it, that's also fine. And you'll be able to create your tests and see how they run. So with that, I'm going to show you a little demo of kind of what the code would look like. And sorry, it's this one. Right. Excuse me while I just oh no, sorry, I'm just gonna see if I can make the appearance a little bit bigger. View, appearance. Oh yeah. Okay. So here's an example of a normal Cucumber scenario. Cucumber, for those who've never seen it before, allow you to kind of use more natural language to write up your tests, and then there will be another set of code that interprets this and then will run your code. So here's some features. We have a feature for Google, and so this is a boilerplate project that sits on the Nightwatch GitHub project, and so we can send out some links afterwards if people are interested. Here's a GitHub one where we're going to go, I want to test something. So given I go to this and I do all these things, then I should expect something like that. And this will then kind of be turned into a Nightwatch test that we can see how it goes. And I'll show you the Nightwatch part in a second. And so we have our, whenever there's a given, so I'll just bring this out. Given I open a URL or a website, it will kind of then move around. And so you can create all the kind of the given statements here. Then we have our which is very similar. You can create all these things. And so this is an example, like you can create your own asserts, use all your own asserts. There are some, like you can also use the kind of wait for. These are similar to the kind of wait libraries that are built into Selenium. Some things are slightly different. And there's also, I don't think there's an example here, but there are kind of ensure libraries. So you want to ensure that something is available, you would use the ensure, so that like it must wait, it must properly wait until something is there. And so you can do a lot of things with that. And then we have the when. Again, it's another set. So like I said earlier, with the feature scenario, you create everything and then you can build it out. And because Nightwatch is kind of built on top of Node, you can kind of either use await if you want to use that type of promise handling, or you could use you could use nested code or kind of more fluent APIs, and it handles some of that stuff. Here's an example of some of the Actions APIs running, and so you can do loads. I feel like I've been talking for a bit, so let me get this up and running, so you can hopefully see an example. And so this is where I hope that it stays on the screen and doesn't try to use my other screen. But if it does, I'll try and move everything across quickly. So this is going to use Firefox and Gecko driver to run. Ah, typical. This one, I've kind of made it deliberately fail, so don't, because I could have got it to handle the thing, but I wanted to show you a failure, for example. And so because it's Cucumber, you can get all these kind of nice sets of reporting that you can see failure, like you can see when something has worked, when something hasn't worked, and you can get like meaningful reporting out of it, which is really nice. And so I'm not normally the biggest fan of Cucumber, but it's mostly because I felt like people weren't using it properly in the past. But like nowadays, Cucumber can be really powerful, and I think people have like learned from their mistakes, and so using it with Nightwatch is really, really, really cool. Brilliant. I think that's it from that one. The next thing that Nightwatch 2 is going to have that kind of is really nice is the ability to do component testing. So this is a kind of a fairly new term, which allows you to kind of create your components from your front-end framework. So this could be Vue, it could be React, Ember, and you can build up these like small little components which are then kind of on your main page, kind of smashed together and generates your kind of your website. This allows you to kind of be a bit more methodical in the way you develop stuff, and you can kind of create good compartmentalized areas of sorry, compartmentalized parts of your code. Component testing is another way of thinking of component testing is that, like, if Selenium is doing your full end-to-end testing, component testing is that kind of intermediary step that allows you to do a bit more integration testing, but within your front end. And so you can kind of just generate that, that certain things should always happen, and you can, like, if you're using Shadow DOM, for example, because Shadow DOM is now supported by the Selenium project, you can kind of build up these components, and then when it gets all melded together into your code, when it's built and generated using your front-end tooling, you can get this really, really, really cool set of features going. So I'm going to kind of talk through an example in a minute. So it's my demo. Right. So here's, I've got a demo project that we've got. This is available on the Nightwatch community GitHub organization, so people can see it. What we've taken is there was a lovely project by MDN, so the Mozilla Developer Network folks, who took a Vue project and were able to create a to-do list, and they can kind of create things. And so Nightwatch has had a very long history of collaborating with the folks from Vue. It's kind of like the nice underdog story. So Vue has been growing and has built some new tools. So this is going to be using, I'm probably mispronouncing it. I pronounce it Vite, but there are probably other ways of pronouncing it. Vite is a new kind of build infrastructure tool for front end that allows you to kind of do all the obfuscation, minification of code, takes all your components, builds it together, and produces it. It's really nice. It's really, really fast compared to kind of competing projects like Webpack. For the things that I've used, but I don't do a lot of front end testing, so kind of I don't. A lot of my data is pure anecdotal before anyone goes saying that I reckon we should all move to it. I quite like it. It's my preferred tool at the moment, and I think Evan and the folks over at the Vue project have done a fantastic job of this. Sorry. Right. So here's my example. So we're going to be I might need to check my demo in a moment, but like we've got our dev server, we've got our way of linting. We're going to test some components. This is going to be using Nightwatch, but we can also test our end-to-end. And this is one of the nice things is that we can kind of do both. And so if you've ever seen kind of Vue, Vue, like most other tools, allows you to create templates, and you can create everything you want. It's using modern JavaScript, so it's kind of exporting things rather than using, so it's all kind of ES modules. And you can create some really cool templates moving forward, and you'll be able to test them. And you can kind of like, it's got its own syntax for creating things, and you can build it out. And you can do pretty much everything you want. So like if you've done React in the past, moving to Vue is not that hard. If you've used Ember in the past, it's got similar things, but using very modern JavaScript, which is really nice. I like the way JavaScript is heading at the moment. And I'll just kind of, just for quick, I'll just show there's another template, and then you create your app, and then you bring in all your templates, and you just import them, get it all going, and away you've gone. So I'm just gonna see, actually it might be working. So if I actually, let's just bring this down. Local host, I think it was 3000. Here we are. So this is our Vue to-do app. It's kind of just your basic to-do app. It's how most people nowadays are able to kind of make sure that their front end is working. And so this is kind of like all the items being put together, and we're going to be able to run our tests. And so if I load up just so that people can see package. Sorry, things are a bit big, and I will just move that down. We're going to run the test components. And so this is going to, just so I can kind of show you, this is so that it's going to mount the component, check that the component is rendered, then it's going to find the elements, and then make sure that it contains the text that we're expecting. And so it's using kind of standard JavaScript, but it's nice that it allows you to kind of mount individual components. And so I'm going to run this. If it moves to another screen, I will try see if I can kind of encourage it back quickly. So I know it was a bit of a flash, but it's it kind of just showed that one part of the form. and we can create more and more tests and build this out. And if I wanted to run, and I'll kind of just show that I'm using the right thing, we're going to use the end-to-end test. And so this will now take everything, put it together, hopefully, and then run a few tests. So you can do those like small modular tests, and you can do those more end-to-end tests, and you can keep them separate. So you can do super fast tests, or you can do those slightly slower, which may bring in some flakiness, but hopefully Nightwatch will be able to kind of handle some of that flakiness too, and give you a good experience. So I'm really excited by kind of this feature coming out to the market and being able for people to use. And then finally, like, one of the most exciting bits of news is Browserstack has acquired the Nightwatch project to kind of help make sure that we move it to huge heights that we believe it can go. So we've brought the Nightwatch project as a whole with Andre into the Browserstack family. We will be building this out and still running it as a pure open source project. We have no intention of closing this out or kind of just making it pure public source. So the idea that the code is available, but there is no community. So we don't believe in that. We believe 100% in open source. And so over the next while, we'll be showcasing some of the work that Nightwatch can do, helping build it out. If some of it helps Browserstack competitors, so be it. The whole idea is that we improve open source automation for everyone. And so this is coming into my area of Browserstack, and I'm really excited to be kind of working with Andre and the rest of the group to kind of make some really, really cool features to benefit everyone moving forward. So I'm really excited by that. And with that, I'm hopefully ready for some Q&A, and I hope people have got a lot out of that.
Awesome, great. Thanks, David. You want to stop sharing your screen?
Yeah.
And yep. Thanks, David. Very, very exciting. I think Nightwatch 2.0. I've been following the progress, and a lot of the new features. Also working so much more closely with Selenium 4, and harnessing all the latest and greatest in Selenium 4. I think very, very exciting stuff. Great. So I think before we dive into Q&A, the team will be putting up a quick poll question on the Zoom webinar. If you could just take a moment to answer that. If you want somebody from our sales team to get in touch with you with regards to running Nightwatch tests on Browserstack, let us know. Yes or no. And yeah, apologies, I'm keeping my video off. My bandwidth is a little choppy right now, so I decided to keep it off. Let me share my screen and let's dive into the Q&A and try to address as many of these as possible. All right, share screen. Awesome, great. David, can you see the screen?
Yes.
Awesome. So yeah, right off the bat, some meaty questions. So a lot of people have upvoted this one, so we should address it. Why would somebody choose to use Nightwatch 2 over Cypress, and what differentiates it?
So the Cypress has a lot of limitations, unfortunately, and so it uses a lot of technologies that Selenium kind of got rid of about 8-9 years ago, in that it injects stuff like JavaScript into the page and then tries to manipulate everything. Nightwatch doesn't do that. It uses real browsers. It kind of has real interactions with everything. And so like it doesn't have the limitations like Cypress has around frames, around sandboxing of the JavaScript. It doesn't have any of the limitations. So kind of in my mind, I would always pick Nightwatch, mostly because it's built on top of Selenium and it has all the same like debuggability that JavaScript frameworks have, and that kind of benefits Cypress. It has all those things, and now with kind of the component testing that Cypress has had, that's built in, and so it's got all the kind of the tooling to help with the flakiness and to ensure that you've got all the elements on the page and can handle it, all the kind of the nuances of asynchronous development, but with the power of kind of actually working on real browsers. It can work against mobile devices. It doesn't try like shrink a real like desktop browser and go, yeah, here's a mobile browser, because like if I'm sure people who've worked against mobile browsers have come across this, where they'll try use a feature and it's not available on that browser, but all their tests passed because they were using desktop at the time. So kind of it removes all those limitations. Nightwatch also works against Appium. So like if you want to do, like if you're doing like React Native applications and you're using Appium, you should be able to just kind of dive straight in using Nightwatch. Cypress doesn't have that set of tooling. So there's a lot of like positives that I think with Nightwatch, than that like it's a bigger ecosystem. It uses real devices, real devices. So if you want mobile, it uses emulated devices. It uses real desktop browsers, and you can get all those things quite nicely. And it can run things in parallel a lot for where kind of with Cypress that's a paid feature. So
Awesome.
hopefully that answers.
Yep. Thanks, David. Okay, the next question is, can we implement performance/load testing with Nightwatch?
Yes, you can. I would try avoid it. Like Selenium can do load testing, but because it uses real browsers, like you've got to be able to scale horizontally for load testing. But performance testing, in my mind, has always been about how quickly do pages load. And so, yes, you can do that. There are nuances that you kind of have to handle when it comes to performance testing, but you can definitely do it with Nightwatch. You just got to kind of make sure that you're not getting very noisy data in how you run them. But Nightwatch can help out with that.
Awesome. I think you covered this one around basic authentication, right? HTTP auth, I think during your slides. Anything additional you want to address here around basic authentication?
So with like basic authentication relies on the Selenium BiDi APIs, and we're working like I've started conversations with a company called Agalia, who's kind of they create patches for WebKit, and if it's upstreamed into WebKit, there's a good chance it'll be pulled into Safari. So I've started conversations with Agalia. I am in constant conversations with Apple, and they are big supporters of the WebDriver BiDi stuff. So kind of they want to support real like iOS Safari and real desktop Safari support through Selenium, because they kind of care about that, and they know that that there is a big difference between general WebKit that kind of say something like Playwright uses and Safari, and they want to be able to kind of make sure that people can test on those things. So they are working on it, and my group, the open source group within Browserstack, is in conversation with them to see how we can facilitate that and move it and make it better.
All right. Next question is cross-browser testing. Again, I think is something you've addressed. So yeah, I think
most definitely. Yes, you can do that. You can, and so like with general cross-browser testing, I think kind of the way I normally do is I would have different workers for different browsers, and then you just pass in like which browser you want it to start up at that time, and it just runs it. So it would just be an argument, and away you go. So Nightwatch, yes, can do it, and Appium and everything else.
All right, I think will we get the example files you showed in the webinar?
Yes,
I think that's all there in the GitHub repo, right?
Yeah. So I've shown like the Cucumber stuff that is on the Nightwatch organization on GitHub, and the to do example with components that is on Nightwatch-community GitHub organization. So we like it's going out to community. It's all public right now. You can go clone it and play with it now.
So yeah, I think folks can just go to the nightwatchjs.org website and get access to the GitHub repo from there, and I think everything will be located under that.
Yeah.
Awesome. Interesting question. How difficult would it be to upgrade from 1.7 plus Cucumber to 2?
It should. We've tried our best. So I've been working with the Nightwatch folk to kind of make sure that whenever you upgrade, that we don't leave anyone behind, and so it should mostly work. Like there might be one or two slight edge cases where because it's relying on Selenium under the hood, some things are not available. So like in the past, I think kind of people used the status codes that were coming back. Selenium got rid of those, so Nightwatch technically has to get rid of those as well, because it can't they are meaningless now. But like that's one example where you can't have a full easy upgrade, but it's like hopefully 5 minutes worth of work to fix that, and then away you go. So it should be easy.
Okay. Stepwise debugging. This is an interesting request with an IDE like VS Code and a browser.
Yes, I think kind of I know when I was at Mozilla there was a lot of work to kind of make sure people could do that and use VS Code as their like debugger rather than using dev tools in a browser. I know there's a lot of work, so you should be able to do that. I know kind of when I'm debugging some Selenium code when working on the Selenium project, I use VS Code all the time, and like with the JavaScript tests, I've set it up that I can kind of step into Node and then just like debug my tests, and I do that with everything. So if people are interested, I might see if we can get a blog post up on how I do it and how you can benefit from it.
Awesome. Will there be support for hover without using X and Y coordinates?
Yeah, that should already be there. That's been in there for Selenium for a while. Like you can just pass on, you can pass an element. So like, go hover, like move to this element rather than like move to X, Y. You just go like, I know that I've got a square or a button and I want to move to it. That should engage the hover. And you can just say move to that element rather than X and Y. And that's been there for a while. Nightwatch has improved how it did actions, because in the past it kind of it, like I said, it built everything on by its own, but now that's been improved. So yeah.
Awesome. You have some fans of your sweater, David.
My wife bought it for me this year because I've always wanted a Christmas sweater, but no one would ever buy one, and I just said I was never going to buy one because like in our family you give them as gifts. And no one ever bought one except for this year.
I think it's got all the brightest colors on the color wheel, orange and yellow. It's amazing.
I love it.
Awesome.
And I love Pokemon, so.
All right. Next question. Does Nightwatch easily allow Chrome driver and Safari driver to talk to each other? Kind of like JSON wire, but between different web drivers.
I'm not sure what that question means. So Nightwatch can speak to Chrome driver and Safari driver. Like because it tells Selenium to do it, and so if there's any kind of little nuance, it should be like it's handled away from Nightwatch. Nightwatch is now focusing on making sure that end-to-end experience is really good, and like so it's focusing on that.
Got it. All right. Can Nightwatch run multiple tests in parallel?
Yes, most definitely. It's been there, I think, since 1.3, if memory serves. And like to the Cypress question earlier, it's built in straight away, so you don't. It's not a like paid for feature.
Okay. Our next question: does Nightwatch intend to have a common user-facing interface to report test outcomes as opposed to the DevTools view? Basically, a way to showcase test results.
So there's been a lot of work around reporting, and so kind of I think you can pick whatever reporter you want. So like if your common one is like you want Mocha reporting, you could do that. Or Cucumber is another example that we've added. So yes, it's just like I think you just need to pick the one you want. And if it's not working the way you intend, feel free to raise an issue. And we will try see if we can put it into the version 2 lifecycle. If not, it'll be there in 2.1. We're going to be doing regular releases and moving it forward quite a lot.
All right. Will we beat flakiness? The $1 million question. Will we beat flakiness using version 2?
Hopefully it'll be better. Like flakiness is always going to be there. I don't think any tool has actually fully solved this. Like they'll have certain heuristics for certain type of use cases, but then someone else will do it and do something wrong. But yeah, we're trying our best, and if we can improve heuristics, we will.
All right, next question is, will there be support to interact with system functions in the middle of a test, such as closing the system file explorer box?
Probably not. Unless, like, you could maybe... I'm going to say no. There are ways around it, but like we try focus on automating the browser, or like if we're speaking to Appium, automating how Appium interacts with devices. It's kind of outside Nightwatch's wheelhouse to handle those type of interactions, and even Selenium tries to avoid trying to do that because every operating system is different, and so we just try to avoid it.
All right. Are there any plans to get Nightwatch working again with Appium or providing a sample .conf file?
Most definitely. Like one of the big things we're trying to do is remove friction points where possible. And so like the way the open source organization within Browserstack is interact with the Selenium project, we are trying to hire and improve. So we're hiring engineers to try improve how we interact with Appium and improve that type of space. So most definitely.
Awesome. Okay, next question is something around reporting again. I think that's a previous question around reporting also. Any plans to introduce some sort of reporting dashboard?
So I think I'm not sure we ever removed that. Like I don't ever remember seeing that. But I can't really answer that question. Because I don't remember seeing it in the past, so I don't know if we're going to introduce it again. But if you want to raise an issue on the GitHub repository, we can definitely have a chat and see where it makes sense to do some of these things. We're not we want to be doing what users think would be valuable, and so some things might be already there. We just need to kind of tweak how it comes out.
All right. And then David, I just wanted to make sure we address this question before we run out of time. Is when will Nightwatch 2.0 be available?
So we're hoping to have another beta this week, and it'll be version 2. I'm hoping will be kind of early January. Yeah, I think that's kind of the time frame that we're there, because we're in the beta cycle, so it's now fit and finish type issues that we're trying to just clean up and make sure it's really polished for when it goes out as a full version. You can install the betas now from npm.
Got it. All right. Another question around moving to 2.0. Will it break tests written in previous versions of Nightwatch?
Shouldn't do, unless obviously, like I say, there's one or two like unique cases where it's using status codes rather than proper exceptions, and so that those are the areas that you might do. But like we've tried to make sure that it's as seamless as possible, because moving big versions should never be scary, and I think a lot of projects do that wrong nowadays.
Okay. Another question: will Selenium grid hub and nodes be available in version 2.0?
So you should be able to use the Selenium 4 hub and nodes with Nightwatch. That's working now. One of my team, Pooja, recently did a blog post because she works on Selenium project with me. She did one on the Nightwatch blog talking about how you can use the grid and set that up properly. So it should already work for you.
Awesome. I think one question around the async debugging / troubleshooting. Can you maybe talk about that a little bit?
So kind of Nightwatch is originally it was created that it had a more fluent API. So you would just like do browser.url, go to that URL element.click and then expect, and so you could build all those out. Sometimes that can be really hard to debug, and so it's now got kind of more JavaScript-y, if that's a word, real world way of writing using like the awaits, and so you can kind of do awaiting for promises to resolve. You can kind of step into it, and so you can use like VS Code to debug it and kind of step into things, or if there's another like IntelliJ type IDE that you can use for JavaScript, I forget the name of it, you can kind of step into it and then kind of debug things that way and improve it that way.
Awesome. All right, I think we'll do one last question, David, from Lokesh. I need to upload images of various dimensions to test. Can I upload it via Browserstack and test it in accordance with fixed aspect ratio?
I don't really know the answer to this one. Yes, you should be able to do it. Yes, you can tweak all the so you can tweak all the aspect, like all the session details as much as possible. I don't do a lot with Browserstack in that sense on a day-to-day, so I don't know the answer to that one, but I'm sure we could try find the answer for you.
I mean, you can definitely upload images. I'm just trying to understand what they're trying to
I think it's
are they doing are they talking about, is he talking about a visual comparison maybe, or no?
No, I think it's kind of just making sure that like if you have different like size, I think it's aspect ratios. It's kind of like how the size of the image.
Yeah, the image. The proportions of the image.
Are done properly. So like I think one should be able to do that. I'd be like, it kind of feels like it's something we already support. So yeah. I think
Lokesh, what we'll do is we'll sort of take this question offline, and I think we've got a lot of questions and we're out of time. So we'll try to address all of these maybe with a quick follow-up blog post after this event, and get all of these answered. So great, awesome. I think there was one other question I wanted to make sure we we addressed, David, which was people were asking about whether Nightwatch will still remain free and open source post the acquisition.
Most definitely will be staying free and open. It's like the way I'm trying to explain this to as many people as possible is that like we just want to make sure that it has the legs and it has the ability to kind of compete on an equal footing. Purely community-driven projects are sometimes pushed down by inferior other projects who might have corporate backing, and so this is just us making sure that that people have choice, and there is pure altruistic response here. This is not about closed sourcing anything. We will not be closed sourcing. We will not be adding like, if you want this feature you have to pay for it. Like that is not going to be coming into it at any point. This will be pure open source. There will be new governance coming in, so that it's not going to be fully controlled by Browserstack, and everything will be as transparent as we can make it. So like if you raise issues, it'll be hopefully addressed in a timely fashion, because there'll be engineers assigned to it, not just kind of someone when they have free time.
Awesome, great. Well, thanks a lot, David. Thank you for walking us through all the new features of Nightwatch 2.0. And again, I'm very personally very excited, to do this webinar in conjunction with announcing the acquisition of Nightwatch by Browserstack. So we're all excited at Browserstack to take Nightwatch to the next level and make it the most popular and loved test automation framework around. So thank you all for attending. Wishing you all a very, very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Hope you all have a great rest of the day and the rest of the year, and we'll hopefully see you all soon. And as you leave the webinar, you will get a quick NPS question just asking for your feedback about this session. Tell us how you felt, tell us what you liked and what you didn't, and we'll make sure we'll incorporate that in our next webinar. Thank you all. Have a great day.
Thank you all.
Thank you.